What's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Hope y'all had a great Monday, a great start to your week. If I messed this intro up, it's because I've had to record this the beginning of this video about 10 different times now because my kids keep screaming. So sorry about that. So let's get going here. There's a lot to talk about in this video. We're going to briefly mention right at the beginning, there's some ongoing severe weather going on with the approach of a cold front that's actually going to emerge with a low pressure. Right now, as you can tell, there's two pieces of energy, the cold front energy right here, and this piece of energy right here. They're going to phase together and form what we call a nor'easter, which is going to affect areas of Long Island, Connecticut, Rhode Island, southeastern areas of Massachusetts, Nantucket, Cape Cod. This is going to be a classic, very strong nor'easter. It's going to produce strong winds, heavy rain, coastal flooding, and all that stuff that normally comes with a nor'easter. But like I said, we're going to briefly look at radar scope and discuss what's going on in North Carolina as there's an ongoing tornado warning at this very second. By the time a lot of you guys watch this video, the severe weather threat may be over for tonight. We're also at the very end of the video going to discuss the potential for a big-time cool down at the beginning of November. This really could be some very cold air, definitely by far the coldest air of the season. Some areas will see the first frost and freezes, and who knows, some higher elevations in the mountains, even the southern areas of the mountains. I'm talking about the southern Appalachian Mountains could see the first snowfall of the year, but there's a lot to figure out with that. And we're really going to 80% of this video to discuss this nor'easter forming. So right now, this is what is going on right now. You have this piece of energy right here, this piece of energy right here. These two are going to phase, the cold front and this low pressure that's continually, probably rapidly deepening right now as we speak. Something called bomb cyclone, which is when a storm system like this deepens 24 millibars in a 24-hour period. That is what we call rapid deepening, and the storm is basically rapidly intensifying, kind of like a tropical system. So bombogenesis, a bomb cyclone, it's a very intimidating term, but basically that's all it means is a very quickly strengthening and deepening storm system. So these two pieces will phase and they will create what we call a nor'easter. And it's not super uncommon to get this time of the year. It's not super common either, but we see it every year. So currently right now, if we look at radar scope, we actually have still a tornado warning in place just north of Greensboro, but this is a pretty stout line of storms. This is just severe thunderstorm warning here in Virginia and central Virginia, just east of Lynchburg. We also have this line, and you can't see it because I'm not, let's see, we might get Columbia's radar up here. Here it is. You still have this line of storms trying to hang on. I don't see any lightning really with this according to radar scope, but this is continuing to march southeast, and we'll see how this develops here. But I don't really expect any sort of severe weather out of this. This is basically the cold front that's going to bring in a lot of folks will wake up to much chillier temperatures tomorrow, and then the real chilly temperatures come tomorrow night for areas of the south. So we'll flip back to this, and what we're going to do here is we're going to look at the HRRR model and really look at this develop. By the way, if you guys have not subscribed, I meant to mention that I like to always do that at the beginning of the video. Please hit the subscribe button. Your support is definitely appreciated. It's been a slow month of October. Trying to hit the 10,000 subscribers for the end of the year. The cold months are coming. I love talking winter weather. I get y'all an updated video every single day, even when the weather's slow. So definitely hit the subscribe button. Follow along. Got a great network of people here that have subscribed to my channel. So appreciate all the amazing support. Let's get going here. So HRRR model going forward here. Look at this storm. Look how quickly this number right here is dropping. That's dropping. This number right here is dropping. Let me slow down. That means the storm is strengthening, just like when you see a tropical system. The millibar, the lower it gets, the stronger the storm. Well, it continues to drop. And you're thinking, well, this system is moving away. It's not really moving towards. Well, it gets pulled in. There's a high pressure sitting up here that's bringing that cold northern energy, and the gradients begin to tighten because of this high pressure sitting up here in Canada and southeast Canada. When the gradients begin to tighten, which are these lines right here, that means you have strong winds that could potentially form when you have tight gradients. So this system is slinging a bunch of moisture into southern New England. Like I said, that's Long Island, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, southeast Massachusetts, the Cape Cod, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard. All these areas out here just throwing a ton of moisture into this area. At the same time, you have a lot of strong winds, and it is just going to go downhill fast for these areas tomorrow. This is just an all-out classic major nor'easter, except with rain. It's not deeper into the cold months for this to be snow. You don't have any cold air available for this. It's just still pretty early in the season. But it's crazy. You have cold air wrapping around this. This is just a classic setup. There's going to be some strong winds in these areas in the mid-Atlantic too. I'm talking about Virginia, even North Carolina, West Virginia. Strong winds overnight as strong winds are wrapping around this deepening strong system right here. And this begins to tick potentially towards the southern New England area. And at the same time, it's just bringing a ton of winds here. You look at the GFS, it shows the same situation. It looks like the storm's going away, then it gets pulled back in and spins back north, then northwest, and then west, and then it's basically just going in a circle out here. But this is the classic nor'easter right here. Heavy rain, strong winds. It's doing a nice onshore flow, which is promoting significant flooding for these flood-prone areas in the southern New England. You look at the European, same thing. I'll stop the European right here. It's got 1,000 millibar low pressure here, right about right now, right? So if I keep going here and I go 24 hours out, which is the right here, which is around this time tomorrow, it's a 974 millibar low pressure. So according to the European, it drops 26 millibars in 24 hours. That is bombogenesis. That is a bomb cyclone occurring here. So it definitely classifies as that process. So it does what the HRRR model is doing. It does with the GFS, and it brings this big time nor'easter and slinging tons of moisture into this area. Now, as far as rain, I mean, you're probably going to see several inches of rain. This isn't like a hurricane where you're going to see a major amount of precipitation values. But it's just mixing with more drier air due to the northern phasing of the energy. But it's still a lot of rain, so 2 to 4, 3 to 5 inches of rain. Maybe some isolated areas get a half a foot of rain. But this just spins around, basically in the armpit here in the northeast, just south of Long Island, and just dumps a ton of rain and very strong winds here. As far as the winds and what we're talking about here, this is the European, and this is in knots. So it's showing, 50 to 60 knot winds here going into Rhode Island, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, Cape Cod, southeastern extreme coastal areas of Massachusetts are going to get slammed by this by 50 to 60 mile per hour winds, especially if we're getting into overnight tomorrow night. In fact, there is high wind warnings in certain areas, and I'll show you all that in a second, along with flash flood watches, all in this region right here. So the winds keep cranking, and then as we're getting into more overnight tomorrow, the winds could shift a little bit. Just really depends on where this low pressure sits. Long Island, especially eastern areas of Long Island, could get hit by 40 to 50 mile per hour winds. This is going to knock out power, as most nor'easterns do that are anywhere from moderate to strong in strength. But as we're getting into Wednesday morning, I think the winds will back off from west to east, but it is going to be a pretty brutal stretch of weather for about 18 hours at least, for areas especially of eastern Massachusetts and Rhode Island and even Long Island here. We look at the GFS, 10 millimeter wind gust. This is potential wind gust. Same situation, doesn't give us numbers here, but really hammers Nantucket and Cape Cod. Really does with 60 to 70 knot winds. This is pushing moderate tropical storm force winds here. So we're getting into the 50 to 60, potentially 70 mile per hour wind gusts. That's going to really probably knock down trees, really, because when you get into November and December and obviously the winter months, you don't really have as many leaves on trees. But it's basically as far, if these stronger winds get really far west, they could, then you get more vegetation, more trees, and it definitely has a higher chance to knock down some trees further inland, because a lot of areas right here have definitely not lost their leaves. Way up here in the higher elevations of the New England, a lot of areas are probably past peak, have lost a lot of their leaves, but in southern New England, you still hadn't even hit peak fall foliage yet, so you still have a bunch of leaves on trees, so the leaves help block the wind flow, which knocks down trees. So need to watch out for that. As far as rainfall here, you got anywhere from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 inches of rain I really think a lot of moisture will move in starting early tomorrow, overnight into tomorrow for areas of New Jersey, New York, even eastern areas of Pennsylvania. But as the wraparound flow kind of happens, as this system really pivots in this area right here, we'll continue to throw rounds of moderate to heavy rainfall mixed with those stronger winds. So the orange areas and the more reddish areas are obviously more rain, but the 2 to 4, maybe 5 inches of rain, a lot of wind here. And this is going to be hard to see on your screen. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger for you guys. There you go. So it's hard to see, but that's a little brown shaded area right here. That's a high wind warning. And then these green areas right here are flash flood watches. So, it's setting the stage here. The National Weather Service is definitely pulling the trigger in these regions here. High winds warnings. That's winds predicted to be anywhere from 40 to 60 mile per hour winds, and that includes Boston and everywhere around Boston, especially southeast of Boston, south of Boston, like I said, Cape Cod. This is a big time system. I mean, this is a legit nor'easter. It's not being talked about probably as much because you don't have a lot of cold air, so it's not all out blizzard, but this is a big deal as far as waves. Waves are going to be rocking off the coast of the New England and the Northeast. I mean, if you're Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, y'all are going to have, this is why y'all are going to have some big time waves. This is why the coastal flooding is a really big deal, because it's going to be throwing a lot of water in. It's just kind of like a tropical system. It brings almost like storm surge, and nor'easters do the same thing, and they erode the coastline up here and cause a lot of coastal flooding for these areas. Anybody listening from the Northeast, y'all know more than I do. I've never been up there before, but I've read about it enough, and I've seen what it can do just in videos and pictures. But we're going to kind of branch away from the nor'eastern. We'll probably talk a little bit about it tomorrow as it's occurring and happening, but I want to talk about the potential for a big time cool down as we get into November. These are dew points. I like to show this that kind of gives us a representation of a dry air and moist air. Cold front, this dip in the trough, which is in response to this cold front, which will collide with the energy from the low pressure off the east coast, which will bring our nor'eastern, will bring a big, nice punch of dry air and probably some of our coolest temperatures of the year for areas of the Carolinas, like where I live, for example. And but this dry air will erode very quickly, and as we get into Thursday afternoon, certain areas, a moist sector will form, which is why there's actually a severe weather threat for portions of the south central U.S. and areas of the western deep south, which I have not mentioned in this video. I will tomorrow for sure, for anybody wondering about that. That shows up a little moist sector, and then another cold front sweeps through, reinforces our fall air, and dew points in the 40s and 50s as far south almost as Miami. But what I'm really watching here is this nice pattern continues all the way through Halloween. We get into the first couple days of November, and look at these low dew points right here, almost like an Arctic dry air mass. Dew points in the 30s and 20s. Look how this collapses southeast right here. Very tight boundary. Still very comfortable conditions as we get into basically early next week. But look at this big time cold air mass. Very cold, dry air mass. Dew points in the 20s and teens. Begins to sink very slowly southeast. And as we get into 240 hours out, which is next Thursday, 10 days out, you got dew points into the 20s, almost all the way into the Gulf Coast, into the southeast coast. With that would bring very cold temperatures. Now the GFS is still, all over the place. Shows the dry air right now, shows the dry air for the Halloween time frame, shows the reloading cold air, dry air coming up here, and it sinks south, but it doesn't really penetrate as far south as the Euro. And I know I'm just showing dew points, but this could be our first frost and freeze for a lot of areas. You look at the 6 to 10 day outlook here. This goes from Halloween to the 4th of November. Below average temperatures and a decent chance of it for a huge chunk of the eastern U.S. and central U.S. You look at the 8 to 14 day range, which runs from the 2nd to the 8th. Below average temperatures predicted. So I really think our first week in November is going to feel it's going to be our coldest weather yet in the eastern U.S. I think a lot of areas, even as far south as the Carolinas, Georgia, the deep south, are going to experience their first frosts and freezes of the year with this air mass. So prepare yourself now. If you're summer, if you're a big time warm weather fan, cold air is definitely on the way. So thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate everybody. And that's all I got. Y'all have a blessed night.